Pokemon cards are having a moment, and in today's video we're going to talk about 10 reasons you should invest in them if you don't already do so. But first, here's your intro. I want to lead with this. If you're a normal viewer of this channel and you're a big sports card guy, this video's for you. I'm not making this necessarily for Pokemon collectors. They already know everything I'm about to rattle off. This video's for sports card investors like myself who are now considering getting into Pokemon. I don't talk about Pokemon very much on this channel, and I've just recently got into investing into it. We're gonna talk through some of the decision making that led me to that point. But at the end of the day, what you need to know is they're having a moment. They are blowing up right now. They took off obviously during the sports card boom in 2020, just like sports cards did, but they have made a recent resurgence that honestly nothing in the sports space has been able to match. So let's look at 10 reasons you should consider investing in them if you don't already do so. For one, they are a proven investment. I want to show you a chart. This is Card Ladder, which is what I use usually to track value of cards over time. This is the Pokemon Index, and it has a select amount of cards that have been tracked that make up the index, so it kind of gives you a feel for how it works. Much like, using the stock market, you can see graphs of all-time performance here. So Pokemon cards are up 22% over the last 6 months. I started buying in January sometime, so that would be about 2-ish months ago. So we're looking at being up about 10 to 12% for myself personally with buying in at the right time, but it just keeps climbing. If we go out to a year, you can see we had a little spike out in April, which is presumably when a set released, and then come November they just have taken off big time. But most impressively, if we go to the all-time chart, Pokemon is up almost 2,700% since 2005. Look at this. This is nuts. This rivals some of the best blue chip stocks that you have probably heard of and bought into. This one's maybe more of a duh kind of thing, but they're always in season. I am, as you probably know, a big sports card guy, so I like basketball cards, football cards, even getting into the baseball space now. But they're pretty cyclical in that when they're in season, as you get closer to the playoffs and even going into preseason hype, those cards spike, and then there's an off season where all the cards kind of fall back down. Pokemon are always relevant just because they don't actually have a season. They're not real. That alone just means that there's always some excitement around them as opposed to going into an off-season slumber. Of course, the flip side of that is if you buy during the low off-season during football cards, for example, you're going to have some almost guaranteed returns as the season cycles through its normal sway. But the constant attention around Pokemon is definitely an attractive investment point. Also, Charizard's never gonna get injured. If you were buying a lot of Tua cards, and I hate to even use him as an example because he seems like such a good guy, but he always gets hurt. He has this pretty rough injury history, and when somebody like that constantly gets hurt, their cards might spike when they're on the field and then fall off when they're not on the field. Charizard's never gonna break his leg, or Pikachu's not gonna tear an ACL, so given that they're always healthy and fictional, they're always going to have some kind of market pull. In a lot of ways, if you're a sports card investor, these are going to be similar to sports cards. You're going to grade them the same with the same companies that you know and trust. You're going to store them the same with penny sleeves and top loaders. You can even build out sets. And much like sports cards with a rookie card, there are going to be select Pokemon cards that you should chase that are more rare, more unusual. And PSA has the population reports to help guide you along. And kind of riffing off the previous one, Pokemon doesn't have as steep of a learning curve as you would think. I was hesitant to get into it because I didn't know anything about it 2 months ago. I just, saw the growth curve and was pretty interested in dabbling. If you can handle sports card releases, you can totally handle Pokemon. For one, there's not nearly as many Pokemon as there is in, active and past NFL players. And there's not nearly as many releases throughout the year. Football cards or baseball cards or basketball cards, you're looking at 20 to 30 releases every year. Pokemon's not that bad, so if you're interested in Pokemon, it's not nearly as hard to learn to get up to speed and then start making some smart decisions. They also just have a huge share of the market right now, an overwhelming share. Let's go to Gem Rate and check that out. Alright, so here's Gem Rate. It's a great website for tracking what's being graded and by who. And check this out, the category trends, here's the last 7 days, let's go 30 days. Over the last 30 days, TCG, this big dark greenish circle, has done nearly half of the entire grading volume. It's over half over the last 7 days. So this, looking at it, here's baseball, football, basketball, and then you're going to have random non-sport and miscellaneous cards. Come on in. So given the fact that around half the cards being graded right now are trading card game cards, you're not going to find any issues trying to get somebody to buy your Pokemon cards. There's a big audience out there. They're also becoming mainstream. Just Google Pokemon cards and you're going to find a lot of stories from like reputable mainstream news sources that I want to go to for political advice, but they'll definitely tell you Pokemon cards are popular. Seriously, that's a challenge. Type in Pokemon cards on Google right now and read 5 or 10 of the top stories. You're probably going to see some pretty eye-popping sales numbers. They're also being popularized by celebrities. There's a lot of noteworthy entertainers that are getting into Pokemon cards. I think Post Malone famously has a Pokemon collection. I think he also does Magic the Gathering, but Pokemon as well. Sometimes it takes a well-known figure to say, hey, we can do this, guys. It's okay to really get the masses moving towards something, but having like, well-known popular celebrities actively collecting and promoting Pokemon cards is certainly not going to hurt. And next, you don't have to love them. Pokemon cards can be treated just as an investment. If you really want to embrace the Pokemon lore and consume the Pokemon stories, you could do that, or you can just treat them as a strategic investment, just like you would a stock company. You don't have to have like this emotional connection to them. And finally, much like sports cards, you have diverse investment strategies and liquidity options. So for example, you can buy singles, you could buy sealed boxes and rip and try to get lucky. It's usually not the best answer, but it's at least an answer. Or you can buy sealed boxes of particular sets that you think are going to perform well over time, and you can just stash them, resell them later. No matter what you choose to do, in the same way you can build out a pretty diverse, high-risk, low-risk stock portfolio, you can do the same thing with Pokemon cards too, which makes them exceptionally cool. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you want more Pokemon videos, let me know below. If not, let me know below. I appreciate the feedback in advance, and I will see you soon.